Anthony Albanese, the government looks like it wants to have a plebiscite or a referendum on same-sex marriage. Now, is that a good idea, or do you smell a rat?
Well, the government wants to block what a majority of Australians want, which is marriage equality. And they're coming up with various devices to do that, to delay, to prevaricate, to oppose what is a clear majority of the Australian people. And what's more, I believe, is a clear majority of members of both the House of Representatives and the Senate.
But wouldn't having the effect of having that referendum in Ireland, now they needed to do it for constitutional reasons, but the effect was everyone got a say. Those who are vehemently opposed to same-sex marriage had to accept the will of the majority. In the end, isn't it better for Australia to have that open debate rather than just have politicians decide?
We have a parliamentary democracy, and Tony Abbott recognised that just 2 months ago when he said this was a matter for the Parliament. What's more, the High Court have recognised that already when they adjudicated over the legislation that the ACT brought forward as an assembly, but not a sovereign state separate from the Commonwealth, in terms of their legislation to provide for marriage equality. So this has already been considered by the High Court. It's very clear that this is a matter for the Australian Parliament. And what concerns me, as someone who has received some quite over-the-top emails and correspondence on this issue, is a divisive debate whereby people essentially question who people are. And that is one of the unfortunate consequences. I mean, one of the reasons why I support equality is to send that message of respect for people. We have huge numbers of youth suicides and real issues of people coming to terms with their identity and who they are, particularly in our regional communities. People like Darren Chester from the Nationals have spoken about this issue. I am concerned about the agenda that some people have, and to argue for a plebiscite, this is a significant issue for a number of people, but essentially all it will do is give some people rights who don't have rights at the moment. It won't change the existing rights for the overwhelming majority of the population who are heterosexual and in heterosexual relations. Is that more important than jobs, than education, than health, than all the other issues that certainly are dealt with in the Parliament each and every day?
Yeah, you say it's a divisive issue. There's already people on the Conservative wing of the coalition, if I can put it like that, who are questioning the opinion polls. The opinion polls that show that 70% of Australians are in favour of same-sex marriage, they're saying that's not true. We don't believe that. There is a silent majority. Isn't a referendum the only way to put them back in their box?
Cory Bernardi and his type won't be put back in their box by anything. The sort of comments that he's made on the floor of the Australian Senate are offensive to all Australians, not just to those people who were targeted by his comments that were just over the top. And we've seen that from time to time. We'd see much more of it. That's why this issue needs to be resolved. It needs to be resolved in the way for which we deal with a whole range of other issues on the floor of the Parliament, and with a conscience vote. You know, we've had conscience votes over issues like voluntary euthanasia and stem cell research. In my mind, they've been some of the best debates that the Parliament has had. They've been respectful. People have been able to put forward their views as individual members of the House of Representatives and or the Senate. And that's what we should see here. And when change happens, a majority of Australians won't be impacted by it at all, and the world will move on, and people will wonder what the fuss was about.
If this issue isn't settled by the time of the election, it could be rather dangerous for some Labor inner city members like yourself, because you'll be going to the election. You yourself, of course, are very supportive of marriage equality, but Labor's position is a free vote. The Greens' position is they will all vote in favour of same-sex marriage. Does that make you and people in seats like you vulnerable to the Greens?
Not at all. I'm very firmly of the view that these issues should be settled by a conscience vote. I've argued that consistently for a long period of time. See, I have a view...
So Labor can't then go to an election or a referendum saying we support this?
Well, I'll be voting for it, and I've done more in terms of I'm the first Member of Parliament to ever move a private member's bill about same-sex rights. When in my first term, between 1996 and 1998, I moved the superannuation entitlements of same-sex couples bill. This was raised, these issues have been led by Labor, not by the Greens political party, but by Labor and individual Labor members and us as a party. We as a party support marriage equality. However, we recognise that for people of faith who regard the institution of marriage not as a civil institution but as a religious institution, as something consecrated by God, that's nothing to do with the state, then for those people, I believe, I respect that view. And the Labor Party has a long history, as does the Liberal Party before this issue came up, of allowing for matters of faith, even whether it be not just issues related to sexuality and those relationship issues, but issues like in South Australia over drinking and liquor licensing laws because of the strong Methodist tradition in that state. So there's I believe very strongly that that's the right thing to do. Lionel Murphy's great legislation in terms of the Family Law Act and no-fault divorce was done through a conscience vote. And in terms of a majority of the important advances that have happened to give same-sex people who happen to be attracted to people of the same sex equal rights, those reforms have by and large been as a result of conscience votes of federal and state parliaments.
Moving on, the issue of climate change, Environment Minister Greg Hunt has announced the government's carbon reduction target it will take to Paris at the end of the year. What's more important here for Labor, to announce an alternative target, or, because this is an international negotiations, to support the government's position on a bipartisan basis, at least up until Paris?
Well, Bill Shorten will be going to Paris. The question is, will the Prime Minister bother?
Well, what will Bill Shorten be doing there? Will he be supporting Australia's position, the position of the government, or not? Well,
we believe that this position is not good enough. We believe very strongly that if you look at where our target is, 26 to 28% by 2030, that lags the rest of comparative countries. It lags countries like the UK and Europe, the United States, Canada. We're really at the bottom.
So when might we see an alternative target from Labor, before those talks or before the election?
Well, it's not up to me to announce that here on this show, with due respect. What we've said is put our bona fides out there, that we believe that the target and Australia's actions must be consistent with what the government says is its target as well, which is keeping global warming to under 2 degrees. That's the key. That's the international target that's been set. The Australian government say they expect it, but they support it. But what we see every day, and we saw it yesterday again from the Prime Minister, attacking renewables on the floor of the Parliament. It's quite extraordinary that we have a Prime Minister who regards wind power, solar power, as being something that is anathema to the mainstream.
So what's the biggest...
This is about jobs as well, and the important thing about renewables is that we need a carbon-constrained economy that creates the jobs of the future. Part of that has to be renewables.
So what's the biggest weakness in the government's target? The target itself, or how it proposes to achieve that target?
The government's position on climate change is weak at every level. both in terms of the targets that it says it supports, the fact that it doesn't have any way of getting even to those targets, the fact that it insists on running an undergraduate, childish, sort of three-word slogan approach to climate change, the fact that it regards renewables as something that's, they're bad, and, the aesthetics of them. Unlike a coal mine, which apparently is beautiful to look at, a wind turbine is something that must be denigrated. I mean, it's quite an extraordinary proposition that we have. You look at solar energy, and we know that with the batteries that are being developed now, in just a few years' time, you'll be able to have solar panels on your roof with a battery, providing your house with all the power that you need, removing your home from the grid, and doing it in a way that is cheaper than the existing grid power system. That's what we've seen over a period of time, the price of renewables going down. And Australia, unfortunately, we've been a great innovator and have produced many of the world's breakthroughs in renewable energy. Unfortunately, they've been commercialised in Germany or China or somewhere else, and those jobs had therefore got somewhere else as well.
Okay, Anthony Albanese, thanks for your time.
Good to be with you.